Эта песня называется Just a Joke.
You.
What's up, everybody?
M-Dot.
What's up?
How goes it?
Not bad. Just another day. Another dollar.
Just doing what you do.
Yeah, man.
Today we got review for you guys. We're going to be reviewing The Last of Us, episodes 1, 2, and 3.
And I couldn't be happier. Like, whew.
I mean, I'd never played the games. I started number 1 and I was playing something else and never got back onto it. But the show is phenomenal. You don't have to play the game to know that it's the best video game adaptation of all time.
Yeah, it does an incredible job at staying true to the overall game itself, and they're taking their liberties with the perfect things. But yeah, like the game is one of like my favorite games I've ever played. I love horror games, so it's right up my alley. It had me nervous at the same in the same sense that like Dead Space had me, and Dead Space is like top tier horror video game. Can't wait to play the remake of that. But man, Pedro Pascal is the perfect Joel. Like, I'm just like very impressed overall with his performance, and like anything he's been kind of doing recently has been gold. Like, he's great as our Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And he was also he was also great in the Pablo Escobar series.
He's on fire. That's it. He's
now that you start naming stuff, he really is.
He's on a roll, man.
He's
also the Viper in Game of Thrones, and that's where a lot of people really fell in love with him.
Yeah.
I got this from. This isn't on my algorithm. My wife is also on TikTok, a lot more than me, and apparently he's America's daddy. I don't know what that means.
I believe it. I think you know what it means.
He's America's daddy.
I think you know it.
He's having a moment. No,
I didn't read this article, but it was titled "Pedro Pascal is the next Harrison Ford."
Oh,
I'm like,
but
okay. I was like, okay.
The meme I posted, and it was like, why does he look like Liam Neeson? But you're like, oh my god, he really does.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm very happy for it, man. Like, that's an awesome way to take your career off, and this is like a great addition to it. Dude, that first episode was very much a perfect build-up. I love that the only like flashback they had was just that quick like interview session that they based on like the 1960s, where they like present the idea.
Yeah,
of how the
that was perfect.
First of all, one of my little things I'm kind of like a big nerd about. I don't know much about it. I mean, I kind of know a lot about it now because I'm always watching and reading stuff about fungi. It's really fascinating stuff. And it's scary stuff because it's like the smallest thing in the world. The movie says, like when they were explaining it, I was like, oh man, I'll be watching stuff like this. It's so interesting. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Might as well be honest. I'm not gonna play the game. I'm not even gonna get to it. I'm not gonna.
Oh man,
you know what?
I really recommend it.
I'm a scared cat.
But it's the best way to get over it.
I play a little bit of them. I dabble in them, but like, I don't know. I like watching.
You could watch someone play it.
The games, it's just I'm always by myself, and it's just the jump scares get me too. I get tired of jumping. I'm But
I love it. It's a great game. if you don't play it 100%, I recommend watching somebody play it, just so you can see the differences or like how they like compare. Because obviously, like there are those videos on the internet where like IGN or like some of these other like gaming pages will post a side by side of them, and they look almost identical. It's insane.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. Like I I go back and I do the research on it after I watch the show because it's amazing, and I read how the game went and compare the characters, like Sarah Miller.
Yeah.
In the show, like they didn't have her looking identical, but like they added all like the T-shirt she wore in the game and had the T-shirt on her. They paid attention to it and took care of a lot of details. Ellie is perfect. Bella Ramsey plays it perfectly.
Yep.
And she's also coming up too as an actress.
Yeah. Like her big thing was Game of Thrones, and she played the perfect badass child.
It's like that's how I was like, I'm so happy that TV shows now they're starting to take a little bit from anime. It's like start them off young, get them on their journey and adventure early, get them into stuff early.
Yep.
Yeah. So Marshall, did you play all the games?
I haven't played the second one yet, and I actually read an article from his name is Neil. I can't think of his last name, but he's in charge of like Naughty Dog, and that's the group that created Last of Us and the Uncharted series, which is also a great game. Yeah,
Uncharted is great as well.
And he came out saying recently that Uncharted is done. They're putting it to rest, but they will probably try to do The Last of Us Part 3, but if they do, that will be the end of the Last of Us video game series.
Yeah, of course. No.
And that's even a big maybe for the third game.
Yeah, I mean...
And since I haven't played the second game, I'm kind of like, well, then how did that end? So now I need to dive into the second game. And I'm excited for it. I've watched like short clips of people playing it, the exact same game but sleeker, and I really couldn't ask for anything better.
I'm curious as to like, all right, off the first game alone, since you played that, like, is there anything in the show that you like maybe change, or you think like everything's just money?
I mean, I truly think everything so far is money. Like I said, they're taking their liberties with like kind of the perfect things. So like, for example, with the casting of Pedro Pascal, he has like he's Hispanic himself, but Joel is like a white guy in the game. Also, Pascal's daughter in the show, she is like a mixed girl, and then obviously in the game she is a white girl. So I think like taking those liberties, like definitely like I think added on to like making it their own version, and I think that's exactly what it needed to be. I think if they tried to make it a pure carbon copy, it would have fell through.
That never works.
Yeah,
that never works.
So like they
didn't hear what you said because it was like all mouth, and you were like for some reason.
Oh no, he was talking about Sarah Miller. I was just saying, by Nico Parker.
Yep.
Yeah,
like everything that they're taking their liberties with is just, it's done in the exact right way, especially for like a TV series that they want to have long running for as long as possible, because they already confirmed season 2, which awesome, can't wait for that.
That's pretty dope.
And like the viewership has been kind of something that like HBO hasn't really seen kind of since when Game of Thrones first came out. Yeah. Like the numbers are absolutely insane. They're like, it's like they like the viewership for the second episode went up like by 300%, and it was like, whoa.
I mean, they really knocked it out of the park.
Is there anything you would?
What's that?
Oh, because I was actually going to ask you the same question that I asked Marshall, because like you did all the reading and stuff like that too, so you would know just as much.
From what I can tell, the changes they made you know, like this is just like stat reading. Reading the box score.
Facts. Yeah.
Play it and experience it. But it seemed like it would not be a great show if they stuck to everything. I feel like we'll get to episode 3, but episode 3 especially, if they stuck to that would be. I mean, there'd be cool parts about it, but it wouldn't be great in the beginning. I don't think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah, no, I hear you.
In the show and in the video game, it's a fungi takes over and basically turns people into zombies. And it's the most bizarre spin on it and the scariest spin on it I've ever seen, because you step on a root and that, if it's still alive, that triggers a horde from God knows how far away, but they're all connected. That is the scariest thing I've ever seen. You don't only have to be quiet, but you have to watch where you step. Where 20 years in the future, after all this stuff has been taken over the earth, you can't really tell what's what. I mean, I'm sure they can tell because especially growing up in that society now. Jeez, that's tedious and a whole nother level on zombies.
Yeah, no, that's wild. And then, like what you guys were saying earlier, how they started the episode off. I mean, that got me immediately, like the old time interview, and then going into it, because I know about the video game, but I haven't played it. So this was like basically fresh experience for me. Blew my mind though. It was super dope.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that part wasn't even in the video game. That's also what makes it a great addition, because they're like, this is a great like you said, this is the perfect way to kind of bring people in, to get them in that general mindset of what they're about to walk into.
Alright, so since you're the expert here, whole reason you're on this podcast, I've had you do all the episodes, so
just for this.
Your own here.
Man.
Tell us a little bit about Joel and Sarah Miller and their past and their relationship, and why it is in episode 1.
A great thing that they stay very true to is just the way that Joel and Sarah didn't really go into why Joel's a single dad and the situation that he's in and everything. They just very much started off with, we want to show a father and daughter relationship that's strong. They've clearly been through their struggles, but they can obviously communicate with each other in a way that every parent would probably dream of, where they're open with each other and they're honest with each other. They're not really pulling punches, but it's to also a respectable level. And just the way they portrayed that already from the show, very well done. The video game doesn't necessarily portray that as well. The video game, it just kind of throws you into it. You wake up as Sarah Miller in her bed, walking around kind of looking for dad. You're hearing all this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden you hear people banging at your sliding glass window, and then it eventually leads to Joel coming home, and just like in the show, they do kill a zombie right away, but they don't go into the neighbor relationship at all.
Okay, so there's no really cut scene before the game starts that explains any of that. That's just a great addition to
Yep.
So
Yep.
As great
because they don't have the parts where she's with the neighbors and she's in the neighbor's house, and the super old woman in the wheelchair starts twitching and stuff. They don't have that.
Yeah, that's why I play zombie games, stuff like that. I'm turn my head. She's gonna come after me.
So the show itself is doing a great job at bringing in the story when you yourself aren't in control of the characters. because that's what makes The Last of Us such a great game, is because you're in control of it. So like, yes, they're missing some of the story, but the other parts of the story that they focus on are just so detailed and so well done that it's a game that's going to suck you in. Like, once you get over the fear of it, the story itself is just like that pure survival of it.
I'm not gonna play because I'm always gonna play.
Well, you don't always fight zombies, you also fight raiders.
Okay.
And
Fallout.
it's also like and just very much like we said, it's a survivalist game. So you have to be smart about when you use your ammo. You're very restricted to like the amount of weapons you have, so you have to rely on some stealth. Because like you can pick up like bricks and stuff as use them as weapons. You can pick up bats and everything like that, but they make them have like a durability limit.
Okay.
So like the game is like a thing that keeps you very much on your toes, since like I said, you're in control of what is happening. Like, you're not necessarily in control of how the story's laid out because the story's already been made, but watching the character follow your movements makes it what it is. And obviously when you're making those movie or TV adaptations, that's like a big thing that takes away from it, especially if you're trying to do a carbon copy. It just feels a little dirty. It feels dirty. But dude, like these, like I said, the liberties they're taking with these extra little story additions to just make sure you're drawing somebody in, like, who hasn't experienced the game or knows what it is. And it's also just a show that's like a great take on the overall zombie aspect of things too.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at. Like, you know, those zombies are crazy. Not only do it, you have to be quiet, you have to watch where you step. And then the way they change people is the spores that come out of their mouth. Like, ugh.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
dude. It's a lot.
Yeah, man.
that was gnarly. That
That's really
scene,
wild.
I think that scene triggered everybody at the end of episode 2, where that like zombies walking up to Tess slowly.
I was like,
And-
why?
Yeah, like y'all.
I did love how episode 1 played out at the end, where, you know, Joel, he had a hard decision to make, and you know, his buddy called him to come get him out of jail, and he's like,
Oh, his brother. Yep.
yeah, oh yeah, his
Oh,
brother
yeah.
called him to come get him out of jail. And he's like, all right, I guess I'll come right back. She's sleeping, and the worst happened.
Mhm.
And that's more. That's exactly where the game.
You
picks up.
imagine?
Like, is he's gone, going to like help out.
Yeah, like I picked that up when you said he comes back.
Yep.
And then, you know, Sarah had already went across the street, and she was outside, had already seen what happened next door, and was just about to get attacked by the was it the granddad or the old
The grandma,
the
the old lady, the neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the show, it was an older woman. In the game, I don't remember who was attacking. I think it was just like an infected from the neighborhood.
Okay.
So like that's, and again, that's where like they did a good job with the show, is they kind of established that like neighborly connection. So obviously then that builds on that factor of like watching her dad beat this old woman's head in that she's helped take care of for years as like the setup.
You got to give her a moment to
Yeah.
collect yourself after that one.
Yep.
But
Take her down.
so what about Tommy in the game versus the show? Played by Gabriel Luna. It was
they're very much like, that's also a very, very good one. Like, I really like, especially for like what's being built up, I'm curious to see what else he's going to be portrayed as and what else they're going to do with him. But that first introduction of him is very spot on. Like, he's supposed to be the troubled one. He's like the one that never really grew up, but he's like the fun uncle that is just going to always cause some havoc. And then now you know that, you know, they have their estranged relationship, after everything that happened. You know, they're in that Boston like quarantine area.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, so they build off of that extremely well too. One thing I did kind of notice was they did take away some of the sneaking around in the overall buildings when Joel and Tess are first like going out on their own to try to get the car battery back. There's a little bit more sneaking through old houses, and they also wear gas masks because there's spores in those houses.
Okay.
So they could.
So do they have built off on the spore aspect?
Not as much as like focused in the game for like the overall infection period, I guess is the best way to say it.
Okay.
So yeah, like in the game they show you like putting a mask on whenever you're going into these buildings that have like the active roots that they showed in episode 2.
Okay.
So since they weren't active, they didn't have to wear the mask and they could go through it, but then that was the introduction to the clickers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Oh man, they always got to use that creepy sound.
Dude, and that's what makes it perfect.
Ugh.
And like they look almost the same as they do in the video game to the show. Like the costume design for those is just like, ooh. And yeah, like the hitting on like the perfect like echolocation like attack pattern that they have, where you see Pedro or like Joel step on that piece of glass, and then it does it perfectly to make it almost seem like it's a point of view thing, where they keep you at the same level as Pedro, but then as he steps on that glass, he looks up. He doesn't fully look up. But then all of a sudden he hears like the clicker jump at him, and then he turns up, and the camera turns with him. It's a great like way to produce it. Like that's probably one of my favorite shots of the overall series was that moment.
Oh man, yeah. And when I was watching that scene, I was like, oh, I could see this scene was definitely in the game, because like you just have to like around things, not noise, hide behind like a cabinet or whatever was in there, or a bookshelf, and just try to get to the other side of the room while there's like 2 or 3 of them in a small space, and you're like, yeah. And that's like, where I'll give
That's classic game.
Give up on his yeah. I'm like, you know what? I don't need this kind of stress in my life. No. Like, I played Metal Gear Solid, and that was had me high strung for the rest of my life.
I enjoy torturing myself with these types of games. Cause keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, man.
Well, again, this time, let's take a quick break and get back into episode 2.
Woo! We'll be back.
Эта песня называется Just a Joke.